Welcome to News Trash, where we take an extended look at the more interesting happenings from the last 7 days from the world of video games. My name is Rob, and as ever, I am joined by Prob. Hello there.
Hello. Bit of a strange twisting of fate this week, because I am not Mr. Newsman. I am not the one with all the news, and because I want to be surprised, I have studiously stayed away from the news this week. So surprise me, Mr. Newsman.
News story number 1 is EA. 2 EA stories to kick off. The first one is a follow-up from a recent news story that we've had. A story where EA and Tencent are joining forces to make a platform to put in advert-style games.
Oh, is this that Player One thing?
Yeah, and they've told PC gamers that the reports are false. Following incorrect reports suggesting that we are looking to introduce TV-style commercials into our games, we wanted to clarify that in-game advertising in console games is not something we are currently looking at, and have signed any agreements to implement. An EA spokesman told PC Gamer, creating the best possible experience remains our priority focus.
I wonder how many people actually believe that.
There's that UFC 4 thing last year.
Yeah,
so
there's
got short memory.
Yeah, they've got a short memory, but also they basically came out and said that these are the type of adverts that we want to do, and now they're saying we don't want to do those type of adverts. So what are they going to do? Is it product placement type things that they're going to do instead, where you have like Coca-Cola billboards or someone's using a laptop and it happens to be an Apple or something like that?
Well, they do have those billboards in the sports games. And the football boots and the football shoes.
Yeah, but can you imagine going through, say, I don't know, Assassin's Creed, and there's just, there's just a random can of Coke or something like that in an Assassin's Creed game. Oh, Watch Dogs maybe. And you got billboards for, Gap or something like that.
Yeah, that was always one of the things I preferred about Grand Theft Auto, because it had those sort of mock take brands, but was obviously aimed at typical brands.
Like Sony.
I think there was a particular one in Watch Dogs 2, which was clearly taking a big swipe at Google.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've played that, but it's got the whole open plan sort of, we've got slides at work, sort of Google style.
I mean, the whole thing with, with fake brands being in media, it's a thing that's been around forever. I particularly like the anime take on things where they can't officially use the name, so they add like extra letters. So Sony, that I just said, is actually a thing in several anime I've seen. Instead of Sony, it's basically add an R in the middle.
Yeah, it's an interesting story. I mean, they're clearly doing it. And EA and FIFA's word is basically worth nothing at this point.
Yeah. I mean, replays in FIFA, for example, they're going to have some kind of, sponsored, this replay is sponsored by whatever. You can see it coming.
In WWE 2K19, replays were sponsored by Snickers, so
yeah,
why not?
Yeah. So,
Sticking with EA.
Yep.
EA confirms Codemaster leadership departures 4 months after buyout.
Yeah, I kind of saw that one coming, which doesn't give me hope.
Codemasters and Slightly Mad Studio will join the EA umbrella. Slightly Mad will continue to be led by Studio CEO Ian Bell, while Codemasters SVP of Product Development and SVP of Publishing will be, taking over the run of the company. So they've got people to take over, but those at the top who made Codemasters what they are have left.
Yeah, I can see them maybe at some point in the future, after taking stock of things, setting up their own things again. But I will remain positive about the Codemasters buyout. I will remain positive until EA prove me wrong.
Well, Andrew Wilson, or Android Wilson as he should be known, has said they're not going to turn Codemasters into just another EA studio.
Yeah, like I'm going to believe that.
Yeah, like they haven't got a track record of doing that, so they troll everybody.
That's exactly what they do.
Yeah, I mean, Respawn is an exception to the rule.
Yeah.
And so are BioWare to an extent?
No, I don't think BioWare are an exception to that. I think BioWare were greatly affected, which is why we had Andromeda, Mass Effect Andromeda.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
following on from February's 1.2 billion acquisition of Codemasters, Wilson told MCV he wanted the UK-based racing game developer to retain its unique identity. He goes on to say, similar to Respawn, our orientation isn't to come in and take over Codemasters. Our orientation isn't to come in and turn Codemasters into another Electronic Arts studio. Our orientation is to turn around the provision of opportunity. He likes that word, doesn't he? Orientation. This industry is all about amazing creative talent, and we'll see a little upside in the indoctrination of that amazing creative talent. There's another curious word he's picked there.
Indoctrination, yeah. I'm wondering, do EA think that they're some kind of cult?
He goes on to say, but we do want to provide them access to the things that we get by virtue of our position in the industry. Indoctrination.
Yeah.
Orientation. It's very telling use of language.
Orientation is simply, which direction is it pointing in. And indoctrination, let's all face the south and bow. Is that how it goes now?
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't have faith in this. I don't.
Yeah. Okay.
But I will remain positive, like I said.
I mean, I think Codemasters would be served a great amount by, making their games a bit more arcadey like they used to be, and a little less all-encompassing simulation. Thing is,
there is a market for that. There's a market for one, there's a market for the other. And I think one of the best Codemasters games that's come out has to be Grid. Sorry, Grip is a different game. Has to be Grid. Grid 2 I particularly loved, and I thought the third Grid game was a really interesting idea that I wonder if they're going to take forward, because Grid was trying to merge the best of arcade racing and technical racing into one game, and nobody's really done that. Forza has managed it to a degree, but nobody's managed it in a game where you could actually see it being a competitive game, an esports type game.
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole worry, isn't it, for a lot of people, maybe, that EA turning Codemasters into esport friendly stuff.
Well, this is the thing. I think Codemasters were looking at that as an angle anyway, but the buyout happened, and now EA have, and that might be why EA bought them in the first place, was because they saw that Codemasters were heading in that direction. You never know. There's already competitive F1 racing. And hell, while the pandemic was on, you had F1 racers competing with Formula 1.
Okay, so moving on to Ubisoft, another sort of whipping boy. Well, Ubisoft have basically removed Might and Magic 10 Legacy from Steam, following complaints from players that it no longer works.
I've heard a little bit about this. Just correct me if I'm wrong on this. So,
I'll just read it. It says, Ubisoft explained at the time that the multiplayer online services for the title will be shut down, but the solo player features will remain available. But when the shutdown started on June the 1st, players started pointing out that this wasn't the case on Might and Magic 10. The problem lay with the game's DRM, which required an online connection to authenticate the game as a legitimate copy. By turning off the game's online services, Ubisoft also turned off this check. Yeah.
I was about to say, isn't this a DRM thing? I remember looking at something about this. At some, it was part of a news thing that I was, you get the news feeds on your phone.
Yeah.
It's part of a news feed that came on my phone. I was thinking, hang on, DRM, that's a term that hasn't reared its ugly head for quite a while.
Yeah, but it's a game which has like a avid fan base, and I think it's about 10 years old.
Yeah.
It isn't the old game, and it's a game which is savoured and kept on going and,
but I mean,
survived through the strength of its community. And to do this is a dirty move from Ubisoft.
Well, I mean, to me, it immediately, the first thing I thought was the issue that you and I have been talking about for quite a while now, about who owns what you buy in the digital, on a digital storefront, who actually owns the games that you buy. It kind of harks back to that, because if you can no longer play the solo campaigns in a game that you've paid for, right? That's a legal issue. That's a court-based issue.
Yeah, I was watching a video earlier today on YouTube about Bokeh Studios, the ones who left Studio Japan from Sony and formed their own sort of independent studio. People behind sort of, what were they behind? Gravity Rush and this and that and Silent Hill. And he said, I want to play games that people will still enjoy in 10 and 20 years' time.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the world we live in anymore.
No. Because are you going to own those games? And this is the thing. We've said this before. The PlayStation store closures brought this issue to light, but everyone seemed to have focused on games preservation instead of games ownership and digital rights ownership. And this, again, the DRM thing. Well, the DRM thing it's a term that hasn't reared its ugly head for a while, but it is still a thing that is there. DRM is still a thing that a lot of publishers and a lot of developers use. You know, it is digital rights management, and that whole thing leads directly onto who actually owns what you pay for. If you've given your hard-earned money to buy a particular game, but that game requires an internet connection for it to authenticate, do you actually own that game then? Is it your game?
No.
See what I mean?
The point that we brought up in that episode is basically you're renting a license. You're renting it.
Exactly. So it is an issue that it needs to be addressed because otherwise people are going to be paying for nothing.
Okay, staying with Ubisoft. That ever-reliable person, Jason Schrier, we will come back to him soon, I'm sure, has reported that there's going to be a new Assassin's Creed game in development. Its codename is Assassin's Creed Infinity, and it's going to be a large platform that will continue to grow in the months and years following its release, and it'll have additional time periods added to it over the course of time.
Is this a live service game?
Pretty much, yeah.
Again, this is one of those things that popped up on my newsfeed, and I had a quick glance over it. Yes, I can see the appeal of it, but given what's happened with other live service games recently, I'm hesitant. The problem I see here is a twofold thing, right? On one side, you've got Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which is, 500 hours or something like that now?
I think you're exaggerating wildly there, but it's too long, regardless.
Exactly. And I know I'm exaggerating wildly, but, 500 hours sounded about right.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with me for anything Assassin's Creed now is I just don't care.
Yeah.
The stories are, what other historical period can we put it in? What other place has, iconic buildings? And what historical figureheads can we put in? And people go, oh, I know him from history. Beyond that, the story is absolutely zero consequence. The gameplay is interchangeable. It's becoming more padded.
Hey, look,
hideously padded. Yeah. And this is a game on the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 that had you collecting feathers, and it's got worse than that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a game where, hey, look, I could climb on the outside of this building. If you want to see what's inside the building, well, tough. You're not going to be able to go inside the building.
I think on one of them there was actually I don't know what mode it was, but it was basically a history mode where you could go around and look at all the different buildings, and it'll give you sort of a postcard of information about.
I'm sorry, but if you add striking a pose and stroking your chin while you're looking at these buildings, if they didn't do that animation for that bit, then they're missing out.
But honestly, I think Assassin's Creed kind of just needs to go away.
Well, I did say that the problem I see is twofold, and one of them is the fact that Valhalla was however many hours long it was, right?
I should say 150.
Okay. The other problem that you've got, though, is if you've got, what is it called? Infinite, isn't it? If you've got this platform, and now I know that there's been some clarifications as to how this works. Apparently it will allow them to do smaller games, possibly, smaller Assassin's Creed single-player games, but have them all against the backdrop of this infinite thing. So you're basically paying for the infinite service, but you'll be able to play smaller individual Assassin's Creed games. Possibly. That's a way that they could spin this. That's an angle that they could take with this. But the problem I've got there, right, is, right, it's a Tomb Raider thing. And I'm going to link it back to Tomb Raider, the original Tomb Raider games, not the remakes. And there's a reason why. Right, when Tomb Raider first came out, you had Lara Croft. She could run, she could jump jump sideways and somersault and shoot guns and stuff like that, yeah? And then Tomb Raider 2 came out. And what could Lara do in Tomb Raider 2? She could swim. It was an extra thing that they added in. And then in Tomb Raider 3, they added more things that Lara could do. She could swing along and stuff like that, yeah? And they actually kept adding mechanics and changing the gameplay through the first few games. And they did that with a few of the Assassin's Creed games to start off with. But if you've got this platform where you've got these Assassin's Creed games, they're basically all going to have the same movement sets. But that doesn't work with every weapon, doesn't work with every time period, doesn't work with items of clothing. Because if you've got, what was that? Assassin's Creed Liberation, was on the Vita?
I stopped paying attention a while ago, I'll be honest.
Right. If you're wearing a really constricting old British military uniform, you know, the one with the red, where they had the big black hat and the red coat, and, you know, it's all buttoned up, really, you're going to do all those acrobatic movements wearing something like that? Something as constricting as that?
You know, why not have bruiser characters as well? It's just so...
Why does it always have to be these type of characters? Why can't you have... I mean, you don't just have assassins who are... who are like ninjas, because that's all they seem to think assassins are.
Well, they're not even like ninjas in Assassin's Creed. I don't know what the hell they're supposed to be.
Do you know what I always thought was a shame? Was that they've got this Assassin's Creed thing, and they didn't go the Hitman route.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I've had a problem with in these recent ones is that the claim that they copied a lot of The Witcher, but the one thing they didn't learn from The Witcher is to actually put in characters that you care about, locations that actually had some sort of meaning behind sort of like a bullet point on Wikipedia. And there's no humanity, and there's no character, and there's no anything in it really. It's just basically, it's got things in there, but nothing with any soul.
The main thing that they didn't learn from The Witcher, though, was how to tell a story.
Yeah, the story. I played Origins, I think it was last year, maybe 2019, and I couldn't tell you a first thing about it. I think the lead character's called Bayek, if I remember correctly.
It's in Egypt, that's all you need to know.
Yeah, that's all I can remember. It's called Bayek.
It's got pyramids.
And I got a Final Fantasy sword or something in some weird DLC. That's all I can remember.
And that's useful how?
Yeah, it's not a great game. But, let's move on.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Nintendo.
Oh, jolly good.
One big story, one less so. The first one is that the Pro has been announced. Well, maybe it has, maybe it hasn't. Only it's not a Pro. It is the Nintendo Switch OLED, which has a 7-inch OLED screen and an Ethernet port and a new kickstand.
Oh, and it's slightly bigger. So it won't fit into all your cases and labos and all sorts of stuff like that.
And it's £359, $49.99.
Way to justify that price. I mean, I looked at this and I went, so you made a big fuss about this?
Well, press did.
Well, that's who I was referring to, the press, not Nintendo. My brain was literally going, why was everybody kicking up a fuss about this? Why was everyone making such a fuss about this?
Full of shit.
What I mean, this isn't even a mid-cycle update.
No, I mean there was another story that was going to include as an addendum to this, where a marketing person from Nintendo says you don't have to buy the new one. Yeah, that's good marketing, and that's kind of at the heart of what Nintendo are like recently. They know what they're going to do is going to sell. Why the hell should they put effort in?
Well, I mean, they're going to put the effort in because at the end of the day, they want the money. And
it's going to sell.
Yeah,
it's white now. People will buy it.
Oh no. They've missed the trick already because what is today?
Well, I don't know.
And I'm going to date this recording by saying what today is. Today is the 40th anniversary of Donkey Kong.
Well, that was the next story.
We can bleed them both in together, not a problem. So today is the 40th anniversary of Donkey Kong. I know that because it popped up on my newsfeed. My newsfeed's surprisingly good.
I can't remember the last time there was a Donkey Kong game, honestly.
It's only a couple of weeks ago that it was Sonic's 30th birthday.
Yes.
Right? So Donkey Kong is officially 10 years older than Sonic. But here's the thing. They got this Nintendo OLED edition, whatever it is. They missed a trick if they don't do a Donkey Kong edition for the 40th anniversary.
I mean, that's the thing, though. This will sell regardless.
Yeah, it'll sell regardless, but...
The trailer that they released for it was kind of aimed at people who don't already have a Switch.
Yeah, which, fair enough. If you don't already have a Switch and you want to buy a new Switch, the new version will probably have an improved battery over what
None of the internals actually improved. It's basically exactly the same with slight... It doesn't even have Bluetooth. In a company with a platform which is pushing you towards using it mobile, and people have Bluetooth headphones. It doesn't even have Bluetooth, and they're making a big deal out of the fact that you can plug a bloody Ethernet cable in. What is this, 1998?
The Ethernet cable I can understand, but that's only because I'm a bit more techie. But the Bluetooth thing, you can buy ribbons now that have Bluetooth. And by ribbons, I mean, the ribbons that girls use to tie their hair up?
Yeah.
You can buy those that have Bluetooth now. You can buy items with jewelry that have Bluetooth. You can buy piercings that have Bluetooth. And you can't buy a games console that has Bluetooth.
Like I said, Nintendo basically doesn't care. You're just going to spend it anyway. It's a very conservative Japanese attitude that runs rampant in Nintendo. But they do very, very well with it. I know there's a little bit of the processor issue, which is maybe influenced this a little bit. But at the end of the day, this shouldn't have been marketed.
No, the processor
this should have just been, this is the next, you get a model of the Xbox 360, and then you get the next one, which has got a slightly redesigned something. This is basically all this is.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's the Xbox Elite, isn't it? Not even the Xbox Elite, because the Xbox Elite was actually a pretty decent console on the whole.
Controller, you mean? But
no, sorry, there was the Xbox Elite, Xbox 360 Elite, wasn't there? The console.
I don't know, there was so bloody many of them.
Yeah, I know, but that's what I'm saying. The Xbox 360 Elite, if I remember rightly, was the good one. It was the ones that came before that, because I think that was the last iteration of the console where they actually managed to work out all of the bugs and finally sold the console. That was actually half decent.
It's just basically a slightly different change in the hardware. That's it.
Yeah.
It's not worth charging more.
No.
It's not worth promoting. It's just a slightly jiggered device.
Yeah.
Which just kind of, I think maybe in 2 or 3 years we'll have an announcement of the next Switch, which I do believe they'll stick with this sort of thing, this sort of platform, this sort of design, because it's just been very, very good for them.
Yeah. All right, enough of Nintendo. What else has happened?
Go on to something a bit more serious for the story. Scientists have developed a video game that can help towards cancer research.
Okay.
Accelerate AC cell rate, as the game is known, requires players to trace over photos in dye-stained tongues using a smartphone or mouse. These fluorescent-coloured scans become more difficult to trace as the game progresses, and with enough results will go towards real scientific research into oral cancer. By repeating this process, players will effectively be training an algorithm to detect certain patterns in medical images, so it can eventually go on to pick out potentially cancerous cells from a scanner quicker than a scientist could by eye.
Yeah. I mean, it's not the first time that scientists have released a game that is aimed at scientific research with the assistance of players from around the world. They have done similar things before for the purposes of medical research. I think they do a kind of game type thing for the COVID pandemic when COVID first appeared. And they released a thing that was a little bit of a gamey sort of thing to help try and work out how the virus worked and stuff like that. I don't think it spread very far, that game type thing, but I do remember something about it. So that there have been instances about this, and they do have games where they basically took like a Nintendo Switch controller and stuff like that, and they were actually teaching surgeons in the game, teaching them using the game about keyhole surgery.
Okay.
So there are games where medical applications have been used in the game, and it helps improve hand-eye coordination or the fine muscle control for particular, surgical things or particular, general operations or whatever you want to call them. And so this isn't a new thing, but for it to be a cancer treatment is a rarity, because cancer, as everyone knows, is a very, very tough nut to crack.
Yeah, I don't want to particularly drag that story out. I just thought it was one worth highlighting because it's interesting. It's not.
Well, it's one of the positive ways that games are used, and I really like things like that. I really like it when they take what video games are and apply them to a new thing in a really positive way, and hopefully people will jump on board and help.
Yeah, hopefully. We'll see. Staying with game tech, Tencent, they're at it again. They've got a new thing which has been described as Midnight Patrol, which players' IDs are linked to a national database, and young gamers will have to reportedly be using adult IDs to circumnavigate the curfew. However, this new facial recognition technology will be used to further prove that the person playing is an adult. Anyone who refuses or fails the face verification will be treated as a minor, and as outlined in the anti-addiction supervision of Tencent's game health system, will be kicked offline.
Sorry,
So basically, it's a scan to make sure you're old enough to play games after 10 in China.
I just want to say something. As you were reading that, I was finding it funnier and funnier and funnier, because in my head was the stalling thing from The Life of Brian, and all I kept thinking was, the sales of fake beards are going to go massively through the roof in China.
Yeah, it's a digital lock as well. The company also launched a digital lock that will prevent people from playing, under 15-year-olds playing 2 or more hours of gameplay a day. So Tencent are really taking stuff serious.
They are, but I'm just imagining, it's like, there's no children, are they? No children here.
This is ridiculous, though.
I mean, can you imagine just a bad fake beard you get through this?
I think it's a bit more complex than, well, like the thing is a bit more complex than that.
But it'd be hilarious if that's all it took to basically get around it.
Yeah. But why? That's the question.
Well, it's, look, as with many things, it's China, and China will not simply be doing this because it's trying to protect the children. What it's actually doing is basically creating a database of faces and names and ages, and so it can easily identify potential dissidents. That's how I would see it, and that's basically because my brain works like that. I'm looking at this thinking, how would I, if I was an evil dictatorship, masking myself as, and I'm using the term evil dictatorship very loosely when I talk about China. But if I was wanting to maintain power over a country, and I wanted to identify potential future dissidents, it's basically what I'd do. I'd create a database of names and faces, so I could put names to faces and find these people easily.
Of course, it only really applies to PC, doesn't it? I mean, that was one of the issues that people had with the Xbox Connect. There's that story where people were watching you on the other end and seeing what you were doing.
Yeah, most people found that more than a little bit creepy.
Yeah, I mean, they find an awful lot of people doing a certain one-handed solo pursuit, but,
yeah.
Which is not the sort of footage you want to happen upon. But
so some people were happy to be watched while they were doing the one-handed pursuit.
Yeah, but that's the sort of the side effect of this, isn't it?
Yeah.
The perverted things that people do when they think they're on their own, and kids are no different.
Yeah.
Well, in this country anyway, I don't know about China.
Kids are the same, only the background changes.
A smaller news story here, but one, again, which I thought was interesting, much in the way of the cancer research story. It's that Among Us is going to have Irish localization, and one of the developers on it...
What?
Una Min Kavanagh said it's a massive win for a minority language, and one of many, I hope.
Well, when you say Irish localization, Are you saying that it's going to be translated into Irish, into
Yes.
Gaelic?
Yes.
Or right, okay. Because I was really worried that it was going to just be Among Us with Irish accents.
No, that's kind of... This is he goes on to say, Kavanagh goes on to say, one of my biggest hopes is that the Irish media sees how important this is for us, sees how important this is for the Irish language and for minority languages in general.
No, I applaud it.
Among Us is huge. It's a massive win for teachers, speakers, young students, gamers and enthusiasts.
I applaud it. If they're actually doing a Gaelic translation of it, then I fully support that and I fully applaud it. I was just a little bit worried that all they were doing was basically Among Us with an Irish accent, and that, I think, would be a horrible, horrible slap in the face.
Yes, it would. It would. But it's good, though. It's good.
Yeah, it's great, but you can understand my concerns because we've had things like that in the past where somebody said, "Oh yeah, this game is going to be localized into, it's going to have it's going to have, it's going to have this language and this language and this language," but some of those languages just turned out to be, English with that accent.
Yeah, I mean, you want the story of the wake. I've saved story of the wake for last.
All right, okay.
All right. Over the 4th of July weekend,
Yeah.
The New York Police Department shared its latest attempt at community outreach. A games truck full of game console to entice children into spending more times around cops. And inside that truck of consoles was Mario Kart 8.
Hang on. I see more than one problem with this.
It says,
More than one problem.
It says, among other things, the office states its ostensible goal is to strengthen relations with the communities, with the department policies, and reduce youth crime by way of enrichment, diversion, and intervention programs.
There's more than one problem with this, and the first and the most important problem is don't be giving people ideas.
Yeah, and inside the truck, it had, like, Marvel superheroes, and it was...
Oh my god, it gets worse.
The truck's exterior is very obvious. It has 2 shutters open, and it had Black Widow, the Hulk, Wolverine, Thor, Rogue, and Iron Man, alongside a very bright, friendly kid NYPD game truck logo.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Yeah, it's funny, but it's also serious because there's literally 100 ways this could go wrong, and my brain went to a very dark place. And thought, oh God, this is just giving the wrong people the wrong ideas.
Well, they already had that idea, but this is just horrible. How desperate are the American police to appear like they don't kill people all the time?
They're desperate to appeal to the inner city youth. Hey, we don't kill people, we play Mario Kart 8.
The police have a reputation for being trigger happy. And to sort of, say that's not a thing we're out for the good of the community by luring their children into buses to play Mario Kart. It's a bit much.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the bit that I'm really concerned about. Let's lure your children into the bus to play Mario Kart.
On that, I think we have to draw this one to an end because we could get in trouble with the NYPD. I don't want to. Interesting week, interesting stories. If you liked what we've done in this episode and you'd like to hear more from us, check out our Patreon for exclusive programs like Director's Lottery and an extra episode of Pop Screen, which I believe has taken a week off this week. Or last week it'll be now. But yeah, until next week when we'll have more news and more trash. Thanks for listening.
Bye!